What I would say is that if you're frustrated, if you've ever been frustrated, then you felt anxiety because that is the feeling of anxiety. You're frustrated and you might not feel it in ways that are obvious. But if you have felt it in ways that are obvious, then at least we can both admit, okay, you felt anxiety. But imagine trying to find micro frustrations in your life. Like, those moments where you crumple up a piece of paper, throw it in the trash, and you miss, right? You actually feel a small amount of anxiety when that's happening. And that anxiety is measurable. It's measurable with something like heart rate variability. It could be measurable with an EKG if we're looking at, like, again, if we're looking at your heart rate. But it could also be measured by just your rate of breathing. There's so many different ways to measure it. um, I don't want this answer to make you feel like, oh my gosh, like this is something I have to avoid. It's going to affect me all the time unless I do something about it. Anxiety is there. There's nothing you can do. The best thing that you can do with anxiety, though, is just recognize when it's happening. Take a deep breath because you can control your anxiety. Your anxiety changes how you feel, but so do you. When anxiety causes you to have really short breath, really high temperature, maybe you just like get really angry and energetic, you can actually slow down your breathing. You can slow down your movement. And you can look away from maybe what's even causing you anxiety, look towards a beautiful painting, a picture of your family. You can change your state of mind at any moment. So it's if anything, it's a good thing. You notice that you're anxious. Something maybe bad is happening. That's okay. That's life. But we don't have to dwell on what that thing is because we move on. Life happens now.
I need to make sure that I model the type of day to day communication that I want my team to have. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I make sure that I continue to cast vision for our team. What is it that you're here for? I know in the baking world, we'll have some people who view their work as career work and some people who view their work as a temporary job. And that's true in so many industries. I know you and I met at a vacation rental professionals conference. For a lot of people who work maybe in housekeeping or front of house or customer service, that's sort of the same thing for them. They might view this as a temporary stop in their career, a 1, 2, or 3 year period of time before they move on to whatever's next.
Which is common in hospitality.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that makes them really great jobs is that they're training grounds. They're places where you can learn a tremendous amount of skills and you can decide for yourself either, you know what, this is me. I want to be here. I want to continue in this, or I want to take what I've learned and do the next thing. And so that second part right there is one thing I really communicate to my team, which is if you think that this isn't going to be you long term, that's great. I'm totally glad for you. I want you to know that. I don't want you to feel the tension of, oh, Justin's trying to keep me here in the baking industry forever. Of course, we'd love you to stay if it's the right fit. What I tell all of our team members is whether you're going to be here or you're going to move on and do something else, don't spend your time here. Invest it. What is it that you can do to make yourself better in any way? Can you learn a skill? Can you learn how to communicate more effectively with somebody else? How can we help you grow?
One of the most beautiful things that I watched a leader do was somebody was ready to leave the position, and it was a frontline position like you described. He said, I'm here to support you. If you need help, I'm happy to look over your resume. I'm happy to give you references, whatever you need. And I was just so excited to hear that from a leader because that is kindness.
It is so important because it's exactly what you would want somebody else to do for you. And they probably have done for you. And so, really helping our team members develop a growth mindset is so important. And we have to make sure that we keep that as consistent as we can, even to where we work very hard at promoting leaders from within.
Yes.
In fact, I think on our current leadership team, every single person at a supervisory level grew up from an entry-level position within the company, which is exactly where we want to be.
Yeah.
And of course, not every position, not every role is that going to be appropriate, or every phase in a company's growth. Sometimes you're going to go into a new market or try something completely new, and you need to bring in that outside expertise.
Mental boundaries. This can look like family time, relaxation, paid time off, ensuring workers enjoy vacation time and they're not tied to their phone or their email. It's mental limitations that also come into play when employees need a personal day or need to set limitations on how much they can devote to their work during challenging times. And that's just not expecting that if you're sending an email when they're on vacation, you don't expect them to respond to it. They're on vacation. And you're not texting them when they're on vacation. So, really having those good boundaries with that. So, how do you set boundaries at work? These are clear boundaries that allow employees to do their best work. Set healthy boundaries in your office or workplace. And you do this by one, reviewing your job description. Boundary setting begins by ensuring your work responsibilities are not more than those in your job outline. And I'm not saying that, some things aren't going to possibly leak over, but just really being clear on the roles and what they are. So are the responsibilities taken by those who should be taking those responsibilities, or are they distributed sometimes unfairly? And that can get into favoritism. And that can look very different when maybe this one person is great at getting something done, so you're constantly giving them extra work. But the other people are like, I wouldn't mind an extra project to kind of challenge me. I'm a little bored. Or that person that's constantly getting that extra work almost feels picked on, of like, why am I getting all these extra projects? This is too much. So that can be a real boundary issue if you feel like you're doing that additional work and it's outside the description and you're really not being compensated for it. Make sure you start the conversation with your supervisor. It's all about communication. And then check in with yourself. Take a pulse. Check to see if others infringe on your workstation, if your boss expects you to work hours outside your designated schedule, or if coworkers make you feel uncomfortable. These can indicate the need for more personal boundaries, which you should discuss with managers or human resources.
It wasn't until I sort of had my own awakening where things, kind of started with a tower card and the tarot where everything kind of just falls apart around you. And I know a lot of people have been having this happen to them recently. That was kind of the time where I started to figure out, like, I need to figure out who I am. I need to understand what's making me really drive, because the things that I was driving for, the salary, the title, the board seat, they all came to fruition. And I didn't really get the joy or fulfillment I thought I was going to receive when I got to those specific sort of professional goals that I had. And so the work I've had to do on the inside has really taken me years to do. And it's allowed me to shift how I move through the world and how I lead.
And as you say that word joy, what came up for me and kind of the catalyst in my own personal work was when I was listening to Brene Brown, and she said, when you numb the pain, you numb the joy. And I was like, oh no, I want to feel joy. And I want to feel it a lot in this lifetime. And so I've got to figure out how to work through that pain so that I can start feeling the joy.
Yeah. And it's not like, some people might be like, oh, what do you mean by pain? Or I don't want to deal with what happened in second grade, or no, I'm not going there. But it can start simple. It can just paying attention to how you lead. What are your triggers? What do people on your team do that drive you crazy? When do you feel most vulnerable? When do you feel most alone? Like, just investigating your emotions tied to your role, the work you're doing, and how you feel as a leader at different times in your day, week, or quarter can really give you insight to the work you do need to do.
When I started down this road of looking at strategic planning, I started to think about my own experience with strategic planning and the two businesses that I have had. Now, I'll say, as a part of the businesses I have had, I was always in something called Opportunity Knocks, which is a business advisory for your business. And it's a group, and we would meet once a month for like 3 hours. And that was something that was really important to me when I first started my first business, because I was 28 and I didn't have the mentorship that I was looking for. And so they were my mentors. And through that process, I was able to see different companies of all types and how they handled their own strategic planning. A big part of our group was doing actual strategic planning with people about their business. And when I reflect on that, I'm so grateful for that time and that experience. And then with the business that I have now that has been over 10 years, I actually facilitated a group for 3 years. And again, all different types of businesses. And I saw some themes. And I thought about like all of the things you're supposed to do with strategic planning. And looking back, did I do that with my own business? My first business at 28? No. My strategic planning was literally a vision of event planning. And I envisioned that I was going to be doing high-end, like dinner parties themed, bringing in chefs. And then 9/11 hit. Changed everything. Then it pushed me right into nonprofit work, where my event planning expertise went into large fundraising events of 500 plus people. And that was very different than what I started off with. Similar for this business when I started, and then COVID hit, right? A few years ago, 3 years ago now. There's things you just can't plan for. You can't plan for 9/11. You can't plan for COVID. And weathering through those type of situations, owning a business, you really have to be flexible. Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.